Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, it's Jackie Cation, and you are listening to The Dork Forest. The website's JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com if you like a determiner. Let's do the credits. Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio and video. Vilmos works on JackieCation.com, and Mike Rickberg sang the song with his wife, Sarah. He composed it, and he will sing his version of the Mexican hat dance at the end of this show. Thank you so much for listening to The Dork Forest. Here's a scoop. I'm doing stand-up online. A lot of Zoom shows will eventually go back on the road. Sign up for my email list. It's easy to get off. It's harder to get on than it is to get off. And no harm, no foul. If ever bored, JackieCation.com, sign up for the email list. You'll find out about my weekly Zoom shows and stand up on the road eventually. You may donate to the show if you would like. I would like. Sure, I would. There's PayPal, Jackie at JackieCation.com, and there is a PayPal button on both DorkForest.com and JackieCation.com. And there's Venmo, if you like Venmo, Jackie-Cation, oddly enough. If you have listened to all of the shows, go to dorkforest.bandcamp.com, I think. The Dork Forest has a Bandcamp page. You can listen to a lot of ones that are free from pre-2009 when I started pre-recording. And then there's live episodes that cost me a couple of bucks, so I charge you a couple of bucks. There's also some stand-up. There's a story album that's very exciting there. And other than that, I have a lot of merch in my garage. Feel free to order if you know anybody who doesn't have any CDs or the DVD. And you can follow me everywhere at Jackie Cation. Let's get into the show. Hi, I'm Jackie Cation. I'm in my garage, and not my living room, but sitting in what looks to be some sort of wooded forest room is Brian Swartz, trumpet player extraordinaire and M.A.S.H dork. But welcome to the program, Brian Swartz.
Thank you, Jackie. I have never had an introduction like that. So,
well, it's the glamour of 14 years of doing the Dork Forest. I stick the landing.
Hundreds of episodes. Hundreds of
episodes.
Little research coming in, and wow.
Yes. So, but let's let people know that it's at Brian Swartz, and Swartz is SWARTZ on Twitter, and you play. You do a lot of studio musician stuff, but you were an Oingo Boingo forever. And there's,
Just to clarify, I've been an Oingo Boingo since its reincarnation in 2005.
Okay.
So I wasn't the original trumpet player. The original trumpet player, when the band broke up in 95, he drifted off into the ether somehow. Do
you think he brought his trumpet?
I don't know. Last I heard, I think he's not playing anymore. But I don't know. He was a Dale Turner, fantastic trumpet player.
That's neat.
And, real big shoes to fill.
And you are a Grammy nominated, I believe, Grammy winner?
Well, there's this is a real fine point, that I always feel like I need to clarify, because my name personally is not on any of the Grammy nominations or awards, although I played on the Dixie Chicks album that was in 2000, Taking the Long Way, that was 2000.
That won the Grammy.
It won like 4 or 5 Grammys, Album of the Year, Song of the Year, all of those things. And then just recently, the Monkestra, John Beasley, won a Grammy for an arrangement that he wrote that I played on.
Okay.
So he's getting the Grammy, but I played on the thing.
Fair enough.
And then there's also like the technical point that the band was nominated for Best Large Jazz Ensemble, has been 3 times. So I guess I'm included in that. But
what I'm saying to Rangers of the Dork Forest is that Brian Swartz is a hell of a trumpet player, and I love trumpet. And when we actually got on the Zoom call to do this show, which you can watch on YouTube, he was playing his flugelhorn, which I played poorly in high school. and only really wanted to play that Chuck Mangione song.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
I can understand that. Not an easy song to play, by the way. As much,
Well, you know, I was told I had very good embouchure, so let's leave it at that.
Oh yeah, that could be real dicey.
It's hit. So, but there's the thing is so if people want to hear, like you have an album, you have albums yourself out that people can just buy and listen to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is it like if they go to Spotify or Amazon and just look up Brian Swartz trumpet, it'll come up. It'll happen.
Yeah. Usually, all of my albums are jazz albums. That I've released as a leader. Starting back in 2000, I released my first one.
Oh, cool.
So I have 5 out now. My 5th one just came out during the pandemic. I released an album.
Excellent. That's but not recorded over Zoom.
No, not recorded over Zoom. Actually, we just finished all of the sessions, like January 2020.
Wow.
All of the in-person sessions, and then then all of the mixing was done.
Yeah, that can be done solo.
Yeah.
But trying to play ensemble, I mean, I've tried to sing Happy Birthday on Zoom.
Yeah.
It's like doing rounds.
It's nuts. There's latency. I'm even seeing like a delay to your voice coming through over Zoom. So, and that's I have to not watch that.
Oh, fair enough.
It's nearly impossible to do music that way. And you also just have a wide variety of people's bandwidths and all that stuff. So it's really, really hard to try to do something over the internet.
Yes. So thank God your new album, which came out in 2020, To Be With You, is that what it's called?
Precisely. Yeah.
From DistroKid. And To Be With You, Brian Swartz. But let's actually talk about The Elephant in the Room, which is a little television program that M.A.S.H. Can I see the tattoo? Can I please see the tattoo? The lighting might be bad.
The lighting is very bad for it. Let me see.
Oh, all right. It's medical.
Is it? No, it's not a caduceus. With the sword with the snake or the cross. No, it's. I mean, and that's sideways,
and it looks sort of Knights of Templar, because I'm rotating it in my mind.
Yeah, it's on the door of the swamp.
Okay. And what year did you get this, Brian?
Actually, not until about 4 or 5 years ago, something like that.
Wow, this is a love that because M.A.S.H. ended, I think, in 79, 82?
83.
Okay.
Was it 83? Yeah, 83.
Okay.
And but I just got very curious about what that insignia was, because it looks like some kind of a military insignia also, that might be on a uniform on a shoulder or something.
Right.
So I started looking it up, and then discovered that it was also embossed on all of Somerset Maugham's books. And it was a symbol that Somerset Maugham was fond of.
Okay.
And he just, so this is why it seemed to mean so much to me, because I liked M.A.S.H. so much, but then Maugham is also my favorite author.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I have to put this on my body. Permanently.
Right. So what does it mean, though? Where did it come from?
Well, apparently it's what did I oh man, I looked it up. Moorish, is that what it was? Yes.
That actually does. It's not that I didn't read the copious notes that you sent me, Brian Swartz. It's just I didn't memorize them.
I don't blame you. It is an ancient Moorish symbol that, let's see, what does this say? It brings good luck and wards off evil. And I need as much of that warding off evil as I can possibly get.
Oh, cool.
And that's why it's on the back of my arm, so people can't give me the evil eye behind me. So
that's, it's a weird thing in the Armenian church, the vestments, there's a weird sort of vampire cape
Oh, okay.
that they wear, and it has a high collar, and that's so the devil can't get you from behind.
Oh, okay.
So it's like that.
I get that. You know,
You do get that.
I would
'Cause-
not want that to happen.
No, and the fact that it's on the back of your arm is outstanding. I love that. With the power of the sun is how much I love that. I loved M.A.S.H when I was a kid, and then by the time I was in college, it was in syndication, hardcore. Like
Yeah,
three
it was-
times a day they were showing.
It was on a lot. Even
Yeah.
just on like when we were in 3-channel TV world, it was on all the time.
Yeah, it was on. It was literally 3-channel with a UHF or UHF. I think that's right.
Oh, you had
Whatever.
a fancy TV.
Right. We had like a fourth, like channel 18 in Milwaukee, and it would show at 5:30. It would show at 7:30. It would show at 10:30.
Okay.
And it was so after school, you'd be like, but where are they? Is what you'd always say. Is Trapper still with us? What episodes am I about to watch? You're like, how late in the Charles situation am I? Is the guy from Ohio, the Lebanese guy, is he wearing his uniform or is he in dresses?
I always actually questioned whether they were even showing them in sequence at that point. I don't know if they were even doing it. I mean, of course, I guess maybe we're talking probably about the 80s. I guess they weren't. Maybe I wasn't that attuned to it, but once we got into once where it was on cable all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't even remember what channel it was on, but it was on cable all the time. Then they were showing it in sequence for sure. And then, you know, you knew when you got to the finale, okay, great, it's going to start over.
Yep.
And the good episodes are coming again.
Because it really was. It was right out, because it was a movie, right? Did you see? No, the actual film that it became a sit. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a novel, then it was a movie, and then.
Who wrote the novel?
Ronald Hooker. Richard Hooker, sorry.
Okay. And then it was a movie with, I think, Sutherland?
Yes, Donald Sutherland, Elliot Gould.
Yes.
Robert Duvall was in it. He was Frank Burns in the movie.
Oh, cool.
And
it was a dark movie, man.
Sally Kellerman was Margaret Houlihan, was Hot Lips Houlihan.
Hot Lips Houlihan. Okay. So did you watch it like, I don't even know. I think you're like 10 years younger than I am. But I mean, I think that the thing is did you watch it real time when you were a kid?
You know what? I struggle with this sometimes to think. I think I did because I think my parents watched it. You know, I think everybody watched it.
Everybody watched it
when it was on. So I seem to remember that there are episodes that I remember watching originally, you know, when they first aired. But again, you know, I would have... No, I was born in 1967. So, so when this was airing, I was real young, you know.
Right, but I was born in 1965, and so those 2 years are pretty tight. I like pretty important when it comes to like remembering television. Oh, because I can't. But it looks like is because what I did was I had you sort of go through and pick your favorite episodes because I remember watching it and just loving. Because we're right after Vietnam in my mind, right? Mm-hmm. When I was a child, Vietnam was over once I became sort of sentient, and it was vilified and it was not celebrated in any way, shape, or form, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, M.A.S.H came on, and it was sort of it did a couple of things. It made you sympathetic to people who didn't want to be there. Mm-hmm. And it also gave you this sort of horror of war kind of vibe.
Well, I also think that both the movie and the series were sort of made in protest. You know, were more like a protest to war rather than a celebration of it. And since it was at, you know, since it started during the Vietnam War, I'm sure it was a direct protest.
Direct, yeah. But it did humanize, you know, because I remember. You know, they're canonized, right? Support the troops, support the troops, support the troops. Mm-hmm. Back then it was anyone who joins the service is doing it because they want to murder people and rape babies.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how I was raised.
Did you have any relatives that went over to Vietnam?
Yeah, one of my uncles went to Vietnam, and but we weren't in touch with that side of the family. And I only found out later. All of my brothers had various medical, like only my brother Terry, I think, would have been eligible for the draft.
Bone spurs.
And he had an actual bone degeneration in his hip.
Oh, okay.
And so he had one of his legs was shorter than the other. And so it was real. It wasn't so much, it wasn't a sort of a Donald Trump, kind of, hey, I can't go. I'm doing my hair.
Yeah.
But my brother Phil could have gone, but he is deaf in one ear. My brother Scott has epilepsy. And my brother Russ was going to join the Navy. And my dad told him, I was in the Navy. Why don't you just get up at 5 o'clock in the morning a couple of times and see how fun that is? As my father liked to say, you could always just leave town. You don't have to join the service. You could just go somewhere else, and if you want to get out of town.
Hop on a train and just have an adventure.
Because my father was in the Marines.
Oh, really?
He had joined the Navy in 54, I think. And he got out in 60 because he heard about Vietnam.
Oh.
And he joined in 54, and he joined the Navy, and he was a medic, and the Marines get their medics from the Navy.
Okay.
And he didn't know that. And so all of a sudden he's with the Marines, and he's like, yeah, I wouldn't last a heartbeat with these guys. They're going to go very dangerous places, and I'm going to die. So he did not re-up in 1960.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My father was a career Air Force bandsman. He was a trumpet player for the Air Force.
Oh, cool.
So we, and I think he joined in, I want to say 57, 58.
Okay.
And retired. I think he retired around the time that I graduated high school, 86.
Wow, he was in for the 20.
30, yeah. And
30.
That was his whole career. Played music the whole time. But I also had I had two uncles who went to Vietnam. One was more of a like a grunt soldier. The other was a helicopter repairman, like a mechanic.
Right.
And so they are not, they don't freely discuss it.
No, it sounds like a negative experience. So
a lot, yeah, and like you were saying, a lot of people when they came home, they were really, spat on and not unfavorably.
So what drew you? I mean, I would say what drew you to M.A.S.H, except for that it's fucking hilarious. So that's what drew me to M.A.S.H. I thought it was easily one of the funniest, darkest things I had ever seen.
That's an interesting way to put it, and that's probably a lot of why. That there also, since I grew up not being in the military myself, but around military, there's a certain amount that I can relate to about all of the culture around the military, and rank and how important it is, and how the enlisted people despise the officers, and officers think the enlisted people are nothing, and
right, they're just there to be put to work.
So there's all of that. But yeah, hilarious. I think I try to figure this out every once in a while, and I think really what I like over the long period of time is just I can always relate to the smart ass Hawkeye, like just the constantly making some stupid comment about any particular thing, and it's you have to make a joke, and I currently get admonished for it every in my day-to-day life.
Do you feel so? You mostly relate to Hawkeye. I mean, he's the coolest, obviously. Though Trapper John.
there's so many different weird things about these characters because, Hawkeye was single the whole time. Mm-hmm. Trapper was married. B.J. Honeycutt was married. But Trapper was just like acted as though he were single, And
right.
also, this is the other thing that when I took this dive into making notes about this week, I'm like, I wonder how much of this cancel culture is going to come down on this show, like looking back and go, geez, they really treated women like crap. And
except for it's accurate. I mean, the thing is they treated, the thing is it is a slice of life. If you were to go back, so I remember as a kid watching Bewitched and I was like, what is she doing? Why is she waiting on these guys? They have legs. And so I don't know how it holds up. Have you watched some of it recently?
What? M.A.S.H?
M.A.S.H.
Yeah. The thing is, it's on Hulu. In fact, I made a note. Let's see. I'm currently on episode, season 7, episode 12 again. And I say again because I racked my brain to think of how many times I've seen all of the seasons.
Sure.
And I honestly can't come up with a number.
And do you skip episodes? You cherry pick at this point?
There's something I have a very weird I can't think of the word, but nature of like, no, I kind of feel like I need to go through all of them.
Okay, so you're a completist.
There's a completist. I didn't know there was a thing for it. But every once in a while, there's one where I just can't watch that one again.
Right. So, because you said your first favorite episode is in season 2.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with season 1?
I think it wasn't. I think the entire thing wasn't fleshed out. Like everybody's roles weren't completely fleshed out at that point, and how they were writing for the characters wasn't completely fleshed out.
So it's solidified by 2.
And so I think so. And then they actually, I think by 2 they were actually really starting to write, really starting to push, and make something, a few artistic statements. Of course, artistic within the what we're talking about.
And quite honestly, you're in a safe space, Brian Swartz. You are in the safest space to talk about your love of the art that is M.A.S.H, which I think it actually. Somebody asked me the other day. They said, "So did you watch comedy when you were a kid?" And I said, "No, I watched sitcoms."
Oh, that's interesting.
And I remember distinctly. I don't remember the line. That is the terrible part of this story. But I wrote down a line that Charles said to BJ and Hawkeye in the tent. I remember where it was. I remember who the characters were, but I wrote down the line and my dad goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm going to use that line. That's a great line." Because in everyday life, because Charles just shut them down.
You recall what the line was?
I do not, Brian Swartz, making this story the worst story ever. But
frustrating to me because I could probably move the entire scenario around.
Right. Well, because so you say the first of your favorite episodes is season 2, episode 5. Dr. Pierce and Mr. Hyde. Which one was that?
Which what? I'm sorry.
Which episode? What was the plot?
Well, that was the one where Hawkeye went through a bout of insomnia and couldn't get to sleep, and they kept having new casualties coming in, so he would get a rush of adrenaline and then just jump back in and start working with the casualties again. And he went through 2 days of doing that and then started getting delirious and just wandering around the camp.
Right.
And it really, first of all, the thing that I like the most about it is very early in the episode, he had just come off a shift and Radar's trying to, help him get into his, hey, I'm supposed to help you get into bed or something. So And then a helicopter starts showing up. And so Hawkeye takes this look out the window, and there's this really great shot that's taken from outside the tent. And it's an above shot where you can see his face, you can see inside the tent. And it's just, it's just a really great shot. And it's one of those shots that just sticks in my mind of like one of the better shots through the whole series.
That's cool. Have you ever been to the place where they because there's an old set, I think, up in the hills here in Los Angeles.
My heart would explode.
Oh,
No,
well, maybe. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Maybe when you return. It'll be needed. Yes, whatever that would be. So how does I forget how he gets to sleep, because I remember that episode. It was really good.
How does he finally get to sleep? I think he just, because they actually tried to tranquilize him and that didn't work. And I think he just ended up just passing out and sleeping. But it wasn't until the end of the episode. So he went through a couple of days, a couple, 3 days of this delirium.
Wow.
So, so to me, that actually was a really interesting thing, because he ended up going through this entire like soul searching thing, being in his delirium of, why are we here? What is this all about? What is killing people about? So, it really just questioned the whole meaning of war in general.
Right. It really does. I remember that episode where they shot, where he's dressed as Groucho. And he does a very good Groucho impression.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole message is just not, it's not this glorification of war, and how much they don't really want to be there, and I believe the draft was still in effect, which is why they were there, right?
Yeah, it was in effect. That it was actually, the draft was in effect up through the end of Vietnam, I want to say, or maybe sometime in the 70s they stopped the draft.
Okay. So season 2, episode 13, I'm just looking at your list here. It's called Deal Me Out.
Deal Me Out is where actually Pat Morita is a guest on that episode.
Oh, the Japanese actor Pat Morita playing a Korean guy?
Yeah, exactly.
And
but he was an American doctor,
right?
Actually, but so I don't know if he was actually. I can't remember what his name is in the episode.
Oh, the episode. Okay.
But and then also Alan Arbus is in that episode, who is the psychiatrist.
Sidney Friedman. Can I? All right. I interrupt you, Brian Swartz.
Okay,
to tell you about my personal life, which is, I loved M.A.S.H so much that when I was about 13, I loved it. Dr. Friedman wrote to Sigmund Freud.
Yeah.
That was his voiceover, right? Yeah. My entire, from when I was 13 to when I was 19, my diary, I wrote to Sigmund Freud. Because my parents told me that I was nuts, and I was trying to figure out how to not be crazy.
My 5 favorite episodes. Yeah, that's the 6th one, is Dear Sigmund.
Oh, okay.
So, 7th, I guess, because I said that the finale is like my 6th one. You have to kind of include that in your favorites. But so Deal Me Out, yeah. I kind of enjoyed any of the episodes where they were sitting around playing poker.
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of a neat, to see them enjoying some camaraderie kind of a thing.
Right. Less sort of helicopters and.
Yeah.
So what were they talking about at the pool, at the poker?
Just nonsense, just jokes, and stupid poker jokes, So it's and of course during that part, those seasons they still had the laugh track in there. Which I guess they used less and less as it went along.
Oh, that's right. It was the first sitcom that didn't want to use the laugh track at all, and so they didn't use the laugh track in the operating room, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's right. And I remember when someone told me that, I was like, I never noticed. I just either laughed or didn't laugh.
Well, I know that when Laura catches me watching M.A.S.H,
Laura House been on the show at least twice, ladies and gentlemen.
she says, I don't know how you can stand the laugh track. That's the one thing she can't stand about it,
Oh, okay.
because it just, who knows who these people are that were actually laughing, So, yeah, so that's a bizarre thing. And actually, here's the thing. I don't know if you know, on the DVDs, you can silence the laugh track.
Oh my gosh, really? That's
Yeah.
one of the DVD extras on the M.A.S.H DVDs?
Yes.
That's kind of awesome.
Now, I only have the first 4 seasons on DVD. They were gifted to me.
And I think that's probably fine. I mean, season 5 was okay, but they do tend to get a little dodgy as we go along.
They get very just overacted through the course of, like, after once I get past where Frank Burns leaves, I just about can't handle it.
It's when Frank Burns leaves, that is I think everyone agrees that is where there's trouble. And there are good episodes with Charles. But there is no enemy. There is no bad guy when Frank Burns leaves.
Yeah.
So then Houlihan becomes, just sort of this tragic figure in a sitcom. So
Well, and again, to bring up Laura, I've asked her about this because there are so many times where it just seems, especially in the later years, that Houlihan is just yelling, yelling. And I asked her one time, why does she just yell all the time? She goes, her part was written by men.
Yeah. They just she's hysterical and a nymphomaniac in the beginning. And she's hysterical and tragic by the end of it.
Yeah.
I liked her better in the beginning. And there's only one or two episodes where she gets to be human and they get to know that. But it isn't good for women at all. It isn't a show for women. It was one of those shows where you watched it as a girl or as a woman going, well, I'm going to have to just try to just think of the humanity and relate to the humanity and not relate to the male-female thing.
Right.
Because she wasn't a whole person, right? I mean, and none of them particularly were. They all had glimpses into, like, there's episodes where Alan Alda's writing to his dad.
There were like 3 different episodes like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember thinking that those were pretty sweet.
They are. Yeah.
Some of them, like my favorite character was Radar, quite honestly, just because I, for some reason, related to him the most.
I think he's essential to the show working. But I got to say, he's not always my favorite. There are places where, like an episode was featured, where he was featured, where I'm just like, yeah, they really tried really hard to make that about him, and
Right.
Like they're trying to make him fall in love with a woman who likes Tolstoy and Bach and all of that stuff. And,
Right. They do the sort of the Pinocchio thing. It's not Pinocchio. It's the Scarlet Pimpernel, who was the one who had the lines and would feed them to somebody.
Cyrano de Bergerac.
Yeah. That's how the Dork Forest goes, by the way, is we go from a Disney classic to the actual right answer. So,
we did it without researching it. Aren't we proud of it?
We did. Yeah, we are. Is the third episode, season 3, episode 11, Adam's Rib, is that the one with the coleslaw?
That is the one with the coleslaw, and he orders the ribs from Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he got a craving, because they had the same food for like 21 days or something like that,
Yeah.
Fish.
My brother Russ and my brother Phil references the coleslaw episode on the regular.
Oh, well, it's funny that you would call it the coleslaw episode because the punchline is they forgot the coleslaw.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you sent all the way to Chicago and no coleslaw.
Right. And that is a very good episode. And the fact that it got there, I remember a couple of times trying to figure out sort of the postal service and how it got there still edible kind of thing, Have you
They
ever?
go into pretty great detail in the episode about, hey, make sure it's packaged as medical, supplies and,
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay.
So, yeah. And what about the barbecue sauce? Well, we can't use real blood in in experiments, so we use barbecue sauce.
Oh my God, that's so funny. It was. What about this next one, season 3, episode 24, Abyssinia Henry? I don't even know what that is.
That is when Henry gets killed off.
Shit! I have to tell you that I saw that live.
And I think
And
a lot of people did.
and I sobbed like a baby.
Yeah.
It's so weird when a sitcom will make you cry, and a character where you're just like, wait, did they just kill a guy at a sitcom? Like previously you're just watching Brady Bunch, right? And the Beverly Hillbillies. They're not going to kill off Granny, and she's 100 years old.
Right. And what they would do previously is they would kill her off and then just replace her with somebody who looked kind of like her. Like in Bewitched, they changed the husbands,
And they did not mention why.
They didn't say anything about it. Just a guy whose name is also Dick.
Yep. And then he's going to play Darren.
Dick York, Dick Sargent. Okay. I guess and he looks close enough. Okay, fine. Get it.
That's hilarious. It's, I think that it's important. I was just thinking about how M.A.S.H itself kind of reminds me. Well, hello, Laura House, who's doing.
Hello.
Hello. I'm interviewing.
I can't hear.
Oh God.
I'm video bombing.
You're Zoom bombing this Dork Forest with Brian Swartz.
Mash. Klinger.
Who is
Klinger? Rizzo.
Klinger? Here. What should I ask Brian about M.A.S.H?
Oh gosh, I don't know what you've been
Nothing.
talking about, but I can tell you he loves Frank Burns.
Oh, well, let's find out why.
Okay.
Brian, why do you like Frank Burns?
First of all, the great Laura House people. I just like actually how they tormented him. I think that's really what it is, because he's that jerk that was always around when you were at whatever age. There's jerks at any age, but and you wish that there was somebody who would just torment this person so that you didn't have to. And so I don't know. I really enjoyed watching that. And
Right,
that's another reason why the first 4 or 5 seasons are better.
Right. And he's very much a guy that has power, that abuses the power.
Right.
And so it's not punching down at all, because he is a major and they are captains.
Right.
They don't care
Yeah.
that he is a major and they are captains.
Right.
He is having an affair with Hot Lips Houlihan, right?
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what to say. This is a real clock eater, though. I will tell you that. Laura House Zoom bombing the show, you guys. Very important. Look how adorable they are, though. Rangers of the Dork Forest. Pardon?
No, yeah, boy.
You got to watch this on YouTube, because it's important to see how adorable Laura House and Brian Swartz are. And
I will leave you, but I do want to say I have walked in on him watching M.A.S.H so many times. It's like it's his porn. He will I was just watching He will be watching it on his own DVDs, even though they're all on Hulu. There's easier ways. He's like, no, I wanted the exact episode on the cartridge of my choice, etc. Whatever.
He can turn off the laugh track, Laura House. I don't think you understand. You can turn off the laugh track.
On the DVD. Turn off the laugh track.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
They really don't understand.
So you should like it because of that. You should like the DVDs because never mind.
Right.
You don't have to get it.
All right, love you guys.
Love you too. Let me say, again, the Dork Forest, a safe space. You get to love M.A.S.H as much as you want, Brian Swartz.
Yeah. So, no, I really enjoy how much they torment Frank Burns and how he just keeps coming. You know, he just never seems to. It just never gets old for me to see him get it.
And there's no arc. There's no arc with him at all. Like he never learns.
Yeah. No, I mean,
he remains a terrible person until he is sent home and given a really sweet civilian gig, if I remember correctly.
He got, from what I remember, he got promoted. He got promoted to lieutenant colonel.
Wow.
And this was after, this was, I can't remember if it was the end of season 5 or beginning of season 5, or somewhere in season 5. He, Margaret gets married, and he, shows up, trying to foil the wedding, but he went to the wrong place, and then and he was drunk and got thrown in jail, and then I don't know, somehow he got promoted and sent home. So
I have to say, there are lines from M.A.S.H that I think of, like "Lipless Wonder."
That is a Frank Burns reference, also.
It is the Frank Burns episode where I can go in, I can go out, I can go in, I can go out. He's not under house arrest, it turns out.
Right, because he said that to Hawkeye because Hawkeye was under house arrest, and then in the same episode, Frank got mistaken. I don't know how to say this, but he got accused. Somebody yelled rape on him.
Okay.
And he was like, no, I wasn't. I can't remember the actress's name who was the guest star on that show, but just to get out of being caught with him, she yelled rape, and so he got caught with her, and then he was under arrest, and then Hawkeye later did the same thing back to him. See, I can go in, I can go out.
And it's nice to be nice to the nice. That's my third Frank Burns line.
Yeah, that's from one of the first episodes. If not, that's from the one where Henry brought home a very young, 21-year-old.
Right. A young woman who he was sleeping with.
Yeah. Cheating on his wife, and he was going to leave his wife. And so he was introducing the girl to everybody, and that's
right. There was some good topics. Like there was the one guy who, with BJ, it was like the tall blonde soldier who had a non-wife and baby that he was just going to go home because he was going home. And he was going to leave his wife as the mother of his child, who is Korean, and his baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I think BJ was taking, or was it Radar?
It was Radar.
Okay. Who was helping with the mother and child.
Yeah, what was happening originally was the guy was going home, and he goes, "Hey, I have something I want you to take care of," and he introduced him to this woman.
Right, these people.
Well, and then he was like, "Oh, you have a baby too," and then he was like, "Oh, you want me to take care of both of them?" And he's like, "Yeah," and okay, see ya, have fun. And it was like the guy just left.
Right.
And then later came back and was like, "No, I can't do it. I have to take you with me." So the guy ended up coming back to take. Right.
The guy ended up being part of the solution and admitting that he had a wife and child. Yeah.
And then there was another time where Radar got accused of fathering a child by somebody else, by another woman, who just said, "Oh yeah, it was him. He said he was a doctor," and and we slept together, and but Radar was like, "No, I didn't do it, but I do it, but I didn't do this."
Oh, right. There's a lot of talk about how Radar is super innocent, and I think that was one of the things I liked about him, is because his character was from Iowa, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And
as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay. And then in Wisconsin, it's right there with Iowa. And so I felt like I related to him.
Well, I grew up, part of one of the places my dad was stationed in the Air Force was Offutt Air Force Base, which is in Bellevue, Nebraska. So right outside of Omaha. So I have experienced the tundra that is Nebraska for sure.
I've done Nebraska. I've even done Bellevue.
No.
Yeah. The wind will cut you in half and count the rings in the winter.
Yeah.
In North Dakota as well.
Experienced that wind chill factor for sure. Yeah, gnarly. We were there for most of my grade school years. Yeah.
Oh, really? Was your dad ever stationed in Minot?
No, that's Alaska, isn't it?
No, it's Minot, North Dakota.
North Dakota, no.
Yeah, there's a bunch of, if North Dakota were a country, it would be a nuclear power. It would be the most powerful country in the world as far as nukes.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's where all the silos are.
Oh, that's where the silos are. Well, the Offutt outside of Omaha was the bomber headquarters at the time. So that's where all the B-52 bombers were.
Oh, right. And your dad was in the marching band.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Not a fighter. He's a lover, not a fighter.
He's a lover, not a fighter. He's a trumpet player, not a fighter. And so when Henry dies, then Colonel Potter?
Colonel Potter shows up.
Right. And he is awesome. Those were some of my favorite. I mean, as much as I like the Trapper, Henry, Frank Burns, those first episodes with 3 episodes in, I would say Colonel Potter's my favorite.
Okay. I'll go along with like the beginning of Colonel Potter being there, but after a short period of time, it started getting.
Did it grate on you a little?
It really does, because they really started to write for this, guy from Hannibal, Missouri, and and so he had all of these weird sayings that he would say, and
Yeah, and he had the horse stuff.
Yeah,
and
had the horse, and to me that just got a little bit. That's a little bit too much for me.
Right.
When they overwrite for somebody like that, I don't know.
Yeah, it's so what's season 5, episode 17, Dear Ma?
5/7, Dear Ma. Oh, 4/17. Dear Ma is when Radar writes home.
Oh.
So that is an episode featuring Radar that I really liked.
Okay.
It starts out with him typing, and he just had this nice. They did have a nice way of presenting him in an innocent way, where he would say things that, he didn't know what he was saying, or like
right. That actor had really, really good timing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you can tell that by how much, when he was on Match Game also,
Oh, I love Match Game. And but the way, as was Klinger, Jamie, whatever.
Jamie Farr.
Farr, that's it. Yeah, when the whole ensemble cast was clearly just really good at it. It felt like, as much as Alan Alda was the star or the breakout star, it did feel more ensemble cast than a lot of sitcoms.
Yeah, and they had worked out a lot of timing, and I mean they did so many episodes. We watch shows now, and the seasons are like 9 episodes, 11 episodes. These seasons of M.A.S.H are like 24 episodes.
Right. I noticed that one of your least favorite episodes, Abyssinia Henry is episode 24 in season 3, you say.
Yeah.
And then, but there's episode 25 in season 8 April Fools. Which one is, what is that? I don't even, April 8th, the 8th season, that was just, it was like nails on a chalkboard most of the time.
Again, I think every once in a while they would get inspired, and have like really good episodes that were in some of these seasons. And I know year after year they were getting like Emmy nominations, weren't they? And
yeah,
stuff like that. So, but there were just some real clunkers. April Fools is where they're all just, obviously it's April Fool's Day, and they're making an episode about pranking each other on, and the whole premise is, okay, BJ is the ultimate, Hawkeye thinks he's the ultimate prankster, but BJ's like, nah, I really don't think you are. I think I am. And he goes, I bet I could get everybody, I could prank everybody. And then Hawkeye's, yeah, well, I bet I'll be the last one that you do. And what ends up happening is he pranks. The only one who actually gets pranked is Hawkeye, and everybody was in on acting as though they had gotten pranked.
Okay. Yeah. That's exhausting.
It's painful. And the dialogue that ensues with all of that, and acting as though this just happened, these things just it's really, it is very painful to watch. So consequently, when I get to this point in the series, and if I'm watching, like I said, I'm on episodes, or season 7, 12 right now. If I look it up on Hulu, because they got all the episodes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm currently on. I just get to a point where I'm like, okay, I feel like I really just need to push through this. and
I would love to give you permission to blow off any episode that you.
A lot of this is like, it's something that I put on. It's my nap show. The show that I put on when I'm going to take a nap, or if I can't sleep. And there were, several years where
it was hard to sleep, and
there was nobody
soothing.
Watching, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. And it is soothing, quite honestly. And what about the episode? Do you remember the episode where we find out what BJ Honeycutt, what the BJ stands for?
Oh, it stands for B and J.
Right.
His parents' names were B. His mom was B, and his dad was J. Yeah.
I remember, I was like, is this what the whole episode is going to be about?
Yeah.
And then it actually, that had a pretty good payoff for me. I was all right with that.
Really? Well, but what isn't really the whole thing about it's double entendre, that they're trying not to actually use the
BJ?
The BJ.
A BJ joke? Possibly. BJ joke. You would think I would recognize more dick jokes than I do. Sadly.
So yeah, it's just a painful thing for me and I make myself go through it. And that's the worst part about it, is I make myself endure the pain.
Yes. But here's the thing. I have to tell you that that the fact that you're like, you have to put the finale on your favorites.
Uh-huh.
I remember watching that finale in real time and thinking, nope, this is overkill. This is way too much. Mm-hmm. And it felt like, just so much like it felt like a Harry Chapin song that had gone on way too long. And I was like, you're killing me. So
yeah. No, I get that. I kind of fall back on that. There are not enough episodes that have Alan Arbus in them, Sidney Freeman.
Oh, okay.
So that's one of the ones where he's heavily involved.
Okay.
There's only about 6 episodes that he's actually in the entire run, I think. Maybe.
Well, I just remember that it was long, the season. Maybe it was just too long.
2.5 hours.
Oh, God. It's a sitcom. It should be.
And I
30
think that's
minutes.
actual 2.5 hours, not 2.5 hours with commercials. You
Right. Not 2 45 minutes and a 22-minute. We're
Right.
talking literally 2.5 hours. So, I mean, is it just, I mean, I love closure as much as the next person, but I don't need, it just,
You don't need 2.5 hours of closure? Is that what you're...
there must have been just too much minutia for me because I'm sure that there were some great scenes in that final episode.
Mm-hmm. There are.
This is your cue to tell me them.
Oh, well, all of the revelations that Hawkeye had about the horrors of war and how his psyche covered them up while he was in the middle of them, and then realizing, okay, it's okay to realize that you're in the middle of horror,
Right.
And that's actually probably the only way you're gonna live through it.
Right.
Is to realize that that's what you're in the middle of, not to let your mind make it something else. And
Right.
it's really weird to think of it because I mean I certainly don't mean to trivialize the Korean War, but it was I think 2 years, and so a lot of this I've done a lot of research about the Korean War, and so like a lot of this is I don't know where they came up with all of the detail that they go into.
Well, the Korean War was I remember watching it with my dad, and my dad going, one of the interesting things about why we pulled out of Korea was because of the demilitarized zones, and MacArthur, and I could be misremembering this, and it's a story from Elliot Cation, so a couple of grains of salt, American public.
Okay.
So that MacArthur led troops over into North Korea.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And from North Korea, I think into China, actually.
Oh.
And the Chinese fought back. And my dad was like, there were so many soldiers in the Chinese army that they didn't have enough guns for all of the soldiers.
Mm.
So when some of them just had, they were just carrying sticks.
Mm.
And when someone was killed in front of them with a gun, they would pick up the gun and keep coming. And he said it was just waves and waves of soldiers that eventually the United States was like, oh, we have to get out of here.
Let's just call this, yeah.
Yeah, let's call this a draw. How do we call this a draw?
Yeah, well, and there it stood. It still stands actually that way. Which is, again, reinforcing the point that what is the point of all of that? I mean,
right.
Yeah, so that, MacArthur, was starting to try to, he was trying to start something with China, sure.
Right, I think he definitely had political aspirations that never really manifested, but
he might have even thought he was above that. I mean, wasn't he fired by
Eisenhower?
Truman? Was it Eisenhower that fired him, or was?
Oh, it could have been Truman, but
Eisenhower came in 52 because Kennedy was elected in 60. So, and Truman had been there since
Roosevelt died.
Roosevelt died, yeah.
And well, in 52, it was. Didn't Truman win in 50? Hi, there's definitely some shouting at people's iPods. Who's listening to this on an iPod, you guys? Ooh. And but we'll have to do another Dork Forest about the Korean War because what they were doing is they were conflating all of the, it was all a parable about Vietnam, but they were set in Korea, so they were trying to use Korea.
Yeah.
And as the people left the show, I mean, there was Klinger was left at the end, Alan Alda and BJ, right? And Houlihan.
Houlihan and Potter, yeah.
Okay. And that's who were left from the beginning.
Yeah, well, actually, the only ones that were all the way through the show were Houlihan and Pierce and Radar, but Radar left. Yeah, so Klinger came on pretty early. I want to say in like within the first season, but he wasn't in the first several episodes.
Right. And he was going for a Section 8, which is when I learned what a Section 8 was.
Sure. I mean,
What?
and by wearing dresses just constantly and coming up with new ways to do that and
Well,
look
it's
like
wacky.
It's wacky. That I'm pretty sure that's Laura's favorite is Klinger doing that stuff. I don't know. It appeals to her silliness. Although, as it when Klinger stopped wearing dresses, it's when it stopped being funny too, I think.
Right, right. A lot of the show, a lot of things got lost in, and there was an episode where I think it was Sidney Freeman said, okay, you can get out of the army. I'm just going to list you as a homosexual.
And a transvestite. Yeah.
And a transvestite. And he was like, well, you can't do that. I have to go back to Toledo.
I ain't any of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I think it just led, it's so interesting how slow civilization does move and how television can actually make it do a little leapfrogging, right? I mean, the Will and Grace TV show was not my favorite show. I was done watching sitcoms by the time Will and Grace came out.
Yeah, can't say I watched.
But it did more to normalize homosexuality.
Oh, okay.
Than a lot, than most things.
Okay.
And it came out, and a year later, because it was a hit, or I forget the order of operations of this, but there was a gay character in almost every show. They were like, oh, you have to have a gay friend. And then Queer Eye for the Straight Guy or whatever, that came out. And then there was the backlash of, well, it doesn't have to be quite so overt because people's sexuality doesn't have to be their entire personality,
Right.
And we don't have to go with the caricatures. And so when I think about what we learned from M.A.S.H, what do you think? I think we did. I think we learned a lot from it.
Well, another thing that I was thinking about, I suppose you learned how to carry a character all the way through all of these seasons and be consistent, with that character's personality. But now when I watch shows now, it seems like there's just more of a, they do concentrate more on like an arc to a season. Like these were all just one-off episodes. Like you could watch any one of these episodes and it wouldn't ruin the sequence of the episodes at all.
Right. They were all monster of the week kind of things. They all stood alone.
Yeah.
But I think that it did all kinds of great things, I think, for society. M.A.S.H did. Like it normalized PTSD.
Yeah.
It normalized sort of a dislike of war. It helped. I even think that it helped with Asian, a normalization of.
I know that is the takeaway from some of it. Although there was a lot of controversy about that. There were different people from different countries representing Koreans.
Oh, always. You were just like, there are more Koreans than there are plenty of Korean actors that they could have found, and.
Not to say that they didn't use great actors also, like Mako is a great actor. He's in a couple of episodes, but like, and Pat Morita, obviously great actor. Kelly Nakamura, the woman that played Nurse Callie, fantastic. She was charming the whole time. She was in a lot of the seasons, by the way.
Right.
I know at the time, Margaret Houlihan's character was sort of, they were trying to really embody the women's movement at that time also.
And looking back at it, you're like, well, they failed. But at the time, they didn't fail because what they were doing, what they do with sitcoms and television and movies and all this stuff is sort of just push it a little bit, you know?
Uh-huh.
And so we have wacky dressed Klinger, who can't accept homosexuality or transvestites. But he is also part of the normalization that people are different, you know?
Right.
And I think that there's like, I don't know how, I haven't watched it in so long. I don't know how it holds up, but those first couple of seasons, I'm sure there's some stuff that's jarring, but
the amount of drinking is stunning. Those are the kind of things that I look back on and I go, "Oh my God, that's a lot of drinking that's going on." There's the amount of womanizing that's going on, and
right.
the diminution of women is astonishing. You know, but again, like you mentioned earlier, I think these are the kind of things that were going on in the military also. You know, that's.
Sure, and they're still going on. And I think that what they were trying to do is that they were trying to they had a different point and purpose. They were trying to talk about war. They weren't trying to talk and as the show began, they're like, well, we should also talk about feminism. We should also talk about racism. We should also talk about abandoning your family. We should also talk about psychological PTSD and, you know, and that's kind of why it got a little muddy in the later years.
Right. Yeah, and they did deal with racism. I mean, there are a couple of specific episodes where they deal with an officer who is being directly racist, and you know, and you know, there's. And it's also relative to the time, you know, like I said, I like about Margaret being, you know, a strong woman in a role like that. It's all relative to the time, how it was portrayed and all of that. So, meaning relative to the time that it was made, not necessarily, I mean, I guess, and it was also portrayed relative to the time that it was supposed to be representing.
Right. Right.
So I don't know. It's, but those are the, you know, you look back at it and you go, did they do enough, or were they pushing the edge? I don't know. Is it, I actually have a hard time with understanding even what the term "does it hold up" mean.
Interesting. Well, do you still enjoy it?
Well, if I watch one of my favorite movies when I was young, like Animal House or something like that, I don't separate it from the time that I saw it necessarily. It seems like one experience. So like watching that kind of like brings me back to that time that I saw it.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Which is, I think, why Star Wars is so like,
yeah.
Because I'll watch Star Wars now, and when I saw it when I was 11, it blew my mind, and I watch it. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. You had a question. I want to hear it.
No, did you see what I wrote about Star Wars when it came out?
No.
In my notes, I went to see Star Wars and sat in the theater 5 showings in a row.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it blew your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was really, really good.
Yeah, and I was like 10, and I guess they parents just let their kids do anything they wanted in the 70s.
Yeah. It was there was not a lot of direction, but they were like, go out, come back when I tell you to come back, and go wash your hands. And so, but the real situation is that is I can watch Star Wars now and separate it from that first time, and I can say, well, I still enjoy it. I still want to watch it. Not as often, not 5 times in a row anymore.
Sure.
But I can see some of the problems with anything that I saw when I was 10. There's a window and you have to see some things. And I think that I'm just curious, when I say does it hold up, is it still funny? Like, are there things that don't make you cringe when you laugh?
How many times can you listen to the same joke and laugh at it, though? That's another question. I mean...
Well, that's Laura's question to you.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I bet you do laugh.
Maybe not. You know, it's funny though, because yeah, and again, I don't think this compulsion, whatever on whatever level it is about actually making myself laugh whenever I watch it. It's more just like sort of recreating, like we're saying, recreating a time, a feeling, taking me back where I can kind of check out. I go, okay, I know this. I know what's going on here. I know what's about to happen. I can, like I follow there's a couple of M.A.S.H fan things on Twitter that I follow, and they put up a picture, and I go, and I say what the line is that's going on in the picture, but there's also 16 other people that have said the line that's going on in that picture.
You're
but
never alone.
No, I'm not alone. Of course, it's Twitter. You're never alone on Twitter.
Brian Swartz, I have to tell you that we are over an hour at this point. And I think we've gotten a pretty good idea for someone who maybe hasn't seen M.A.S.H ever, that you could watch it. And and if you do watch it, we would both, I think, like to know if you think it holds up. And or at least I want to know it. Brian Swartz, by the way, is at Brian Swartz on Twitter. And it's brianswartz.com. And he is a trumpet player. He has a jazz group that he has 5 jazz albums. His current album is called To Be With You. Came out in 2020 on DistroKid. And you play with the Monkestra Big Band and the Oingo Boingo former members. And you do a lot of studio work. And people should find your trumpet playing because it's outstanding.
Oh, that's really nice of you to say. Yeah, and hopefully we'll get to where you can hear me play with these groups again real soon. Probably, maybe by the fall, things will start happening for music. Music has been really devastated during all of this, so it's really hard to say. And I also advocate for musicians not going out to play unless it's completely safe.
Yeah. Try not to create a mosh pit of a virus. That'd be great.
Yeah. I don't want that either. Yeah. So,
get vaccinated, folks.
I'm getting my first stab tomorrow. So.
All right. That's awesome, Brian. Thank you so much for doing the show.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. I'm a big fan, Jackie. So, and consider you to be a good friend. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?